What is a lesson you only had to learn once? What's the story behind it? Not to get involved in office politics and to never trust HR. I thought I was good friends with the HR woman. She would come in my office and tell me all about her personal life. Even cried to me a few times. She would say things like, if it weren't for you I wouldn't be able to come in every day. We were friends on social media. So in turn, I felt comfortable to talk about my own problems. Especially with my boss. She talked about hers constantly, so I didn't feel like it would come back to bite me. Well, as you're expecting, it did. I got pulled into my boss's office with her right there taking notes as he talked to me for 2 hours about my performance and then said, I know she's a very nice person, but everything you tell her comes right back to me. So if there's anything you'd like to say you can say it now that we're both in here. And just so you know, we're not trapping you. I literally just sat there and took it and just okayed everything and did not say a word. She's avoided me like the plague since, and I deleted her on all social media. As you can imagine, I'm currently looking for a new position. When I first started a job where I had real responsibility, I learned the importance of having written evidence. I was leading a project and needed approval for a $50,000 purchase, still above my pay grade at this time. The timing was tight and needed to give the okay within a few hours. I got a verbal of course that is okay. Hurry and finish it. From my boss. Well, it turns out my boss's boss did not like it. So my boss denied the fact he gave me the go ahead. My company proceeded to drag their feet to pay the $50,000 bill, and I got cursed at by the contracting company and my boss's boss because my boss threw me under the bus. I have since learned to get written approval for everything, even if it sets the project behind. I also learned most people in the professional world will do whatever they need to do to shift the blame. Don't touch your wang after cutting chilies. Even if you think you washed your hands thoroughly. Story is that I touched my wang after cutting chilies. But I thought I had washed my hands thoroughly. If you learn this lesson for yourself, know that soap doesn't help. Olive doesn't help. Crying doesn't help. The only relief I found was lime juice. I think the acid must cut the capsaicin so you can actually rinse it off. Crying doesn't help, haha, sorry. But that's hilarious. Same goes for removing contacts, BTW. Friend ate hot salsa made from world's hottest pepper and touched his eye afterwards. Also after washing hands. Had to go to hospital. Said it hurt for days. Sire, cover your ass at work. Being the new person sucks at an office. And insisting on proper treatment can feel like a mistake, but it's so worthwhile. Started working at an office with very little in written expectations, processes, or training. Red flags were everywhere. But I was a newbie in the field and really needed a job. So I missed some red flags and ignored others. One thing that I absolutely got right, by accident, was a hardcore SIRE program. I wrote down everything during training, thinking I would train the next person better. I wrote down everything I was asked to do, trying to keep organized and not miss any assignment or task. I kept a copy of all of this on my Google Calendar Google Docs. After I left, I found out my boss was blaming me for a number of misses that were demonstrably not my fault. I ended up having to sue. And thank God I had a record to back me up. Your job does not care about you. I worked myself to death for my first job out of college. I worked long hours, weekends, and constantly took on growth opportunities, which ended up being unpaid promotions. When I finally wised up and realized that I was making less than the new college graduates, almost 8 years in, I spoke up and firmly but politely asked for a raise. I did all the things you were supposed to do. I kept it professional. I cited market data, including the reported salary data for our own company and city. And I reminded them of my contributions over the years, including millions of dollars in successful bids. I couldn't believe it when they told me that the online salary data was inflated. Anyone who told me what they were making was lying. And that I'm still too young to make more than I am now. I went out and immediately found a new job with a reasonable salary. When I quit, They pretended our previous conversation never happened. Asked me why I never spoke up. And tried to offer me what I had been asking for. I left and I am much happier. Never again will I be the sucker. It gets you more stress and less money. Never pretend that your Doberman is a Muppet. And fiddle with his lips. Making him talk in falsetto. He grabbed my arm in his maw so fast I didn't even see it. He held it for a few seconds. Looking at me as if to say, I hope I've made my feelings clear on this subject. And then released me and quietly trotted away. Didn't even leave a mark. But it did hurt and gave me something to think about. Never told my mother. She would have killed him. And we were buds. Close bracket. I was 5 years old. I'm 50 now. And I remember that lesson with clarity. Sock feet and wooden stairs can kill you. I lived in a 2-story apartment that had a beautiful wooden staircase. I was in stocking feet about to go downstairs to work out in my kitchen. I stepped off the landing onto the first step. My feet flew up out from under me. I reached behind me for the railing and grabbed on for dear life. I was airborne for a slow motion minute, knowing that if I let go I'd sail down to the cement floor at the bottom and most likely die or be seriously maimed. Feet finally were overcome by gravity. My shoulder was sore for a day or two and I was pretty damn happy about it. Don't stick your softie into a hole you can't escape while hard. I was a curious boy of about 11 and figured, hey, I got this penis and it would be cool to put it in this empty soda bottle. One thing led to another and here I am. Stuck in perma-hard mode because I can't lose my erection and it's getting more painful by the second. I started panicking and called for my mom to help. Dad was at work, who was spending time with a friend of hers in the next room. She immediately tells me what a fool I am and got me some lotion and told me to lube myself and pop out while she left the room to deal with her friend. Ended up getting out without too much trouble. Then inspected the damage. My hot rod didn't look very healthy, so I begged my mom to take me to the family doctor. So now she has to tell her friend to leave cause her idiot son stuck his DCK in a bottle and needs medical attention. Don't make fun of people. Especially when they might be in earshot. When I was 13 or so, I was in the dressing room of a mall store trying on clothes with my friends and someone with a strong accent made an announcement over the store speakers. I started loudly making fun of the accent from inside my dressing room. When I came out, the young woman who had made the announcement was the dressing room attendant and had clearly been listening to me and was unsuccessfully holding back tears. My stomach plummeted, but I was 13 and dumb and so I didn't say anything. Just put my head down and hurried out. I vowed to never make fun of the way someone talked again, and I think in that one moment I gained a ton of self-awareness. Also, it's been over 20 years and I still feel deeply guilty to think of that moment. I shouldn't give a FCK about what others think of me for how I decide to look. I'm pretty sure my mom is very self-conscious and has tried to push her self-consciousness on me in the past. I felt bad and embarrassed for buying certain clothes because she shamed me for it. Now, especially that I'm in college, I don't care. Yes, I'll dress nice. But for example, if I'm wearing pink even though I'm a guy, I don't give two fucks if I look girly. The friends I have support me and don't care. And if someone thinks my outfit sucks because of reasons like that, they can kiss my ass. Don't be the dumb, loud one in class. We were checking an exam that had some technical mistakes, so for each one, my teacher would give a +1 on that. A lot of people failed, but these points were racking up. Now this girl, who is the said loud one, says loudly, "Alright. A little more and I'm going to pass." Then my no-nonsense professor just says, "Don't broadcast your incompetence." Double quote. It was like a plate dropped and we were all quiet while he continued with the checking. That was in my first college and I just thought then that it was okay if she was a little on the cheerful side, but man, I guess you have to know your place. Especially if your professor is only second to the college dean in terms of superiority. What happens a lot is that the class clown in high school, or other obnoxious kid, can get away with it in a public school because they are entitled to an education. When they try to pull that same shit in college, Their professors won't tolerate it and they get a swift dose of reality. Never believe a woman when they say they're not hungry. My friend did just that and said she was not hungry and the minute I got food from a restaurant, she took it. I have no evidence to back this up, but I am convinced this idea is born from some bullshit idea that women admitting they're hungry, or that they want anything at all, is vulgar. Like shit. I do it. I have to say no thank you, I'm not hungry if someone ever verbally offers me food or drink. Even if my stomach is audibly growling. It's only acceptable to eat it if it's actually placed in front of you, because then it would be rude to refuse. Keep your mouth shut when dealing with the police. Story. Got arrested over a bacon sandwich. Steamin'. Walking home with a couple of friends. We'd gotten into the habit of going back to my house at the end of the night and making monster bacon sandwiches. Instead of getting dodgy takeaway. Walked past a parked police car at the exact moment I drunkenly, and thus loudly, proclaimed, "I could murder a bacon sandwich." Double quote. Police officer jumped out and confronted me. He thought I was obliquely calling him a pig. I hadn't even seen the police car there. We argued. My contention was that A. I wanted a bacon sandwich. And B. He couldn't arrest me even if I had called him a pig to his face. His contention was that he could arrest me. And he did. A night in the cells ensued. Got a police issue bacon sandwich in the morning though. So I won in the end. Don't trust your friend's friends no matter how close they are with each other. My friend's friend was giving me a ride home to my boyfriend at 3 AM after we all hung out, and it ended up with him trying to force me to give him a hug and go to his house. I didn't want to give him a hug or go to his house because I felt uncomfortable doing so, and that triggered him to get aggressive with me. I did absolutely nothing to make him think I would ever do anything with him. I have a boyfriend that I love very much, which was something he knew. He threw my phone out the window. Took my glasses off my face. Kicked me out of his car and left me in a city that was unfamiliar to me. But not before going all apeshit, smacking me around. Keeping me locked in his car for over an hour, speeding past stop signs, yelling at me and cutting me out. Shittiest experience I've had this year. FCK that idiot. Can't even deny someone a hug without being afraid they might go crazy on me. Don't jump onto the back of an alligator. When I was younger I thought it would be hilarious to jump onto the back of an 15-foot alligator that was sitting in the middle of a golf course and attempt to ride it. Turns out their backs aren't quite as strong as you would think. Sorta like elephants. They aren't designed for riding. The poor fellow roared with pain and limped into the woods. I'm pretty sure I broke his back. Never leave your home unarmed. Really shitty lesson to learn the hard way. I got FK'd up by a group of 6-7 people. They just came out of nowhere. Didn't even rob me. I think they just did it for fun. I keep a pair of needle nose pliers on me now. I hit a brick with it to see how it'd work, and that shit goes in deep when I swing it. So I'm sure it'd FCK up a skull just as bad. I could have been killed then. So I'm never gonna hesitate if I end up back in that situation. I ended up defending myself about a year afterwards with a stun gun. But those things suck. It didn't stop him, but I ended up being able to fight him off my hands. Thank God. Might not have ended that way though. So I carry the pliers now. I would get a gun. But I don't trust my housemates enough to keep one in the house. I'll probably buy one when I get my own apartment. The world is a scary place full of shitty people. I'm against violence. But I'm more against me dying. A month or two into owning my dog, I came back from a night out around 11 or so. Yes. I'm a wimp. I had let him out before I left. And he usually sleeps through the night. He started whining around 11:30. But my semi-drunk ass absolutely was not about to get up. So I rationalized that he just wanted attention. Or could hold it. I kept calling him to hop up on the bed and lay down. And for 20 minutes we went back and forth. He finally hopped onto the bed and I was so happy because I thought I won. Until he put his front paws on the left side of me. Had his back paws on the right side. And pissed a goddamn lake all over my comforter. It soaked through the comforter and the 2 blankets underneath it. to this day. He gets let out the very second he starts whining his whine. Not to ask questions you don't want to know the answer to. I was once in an argument with someone about punishment for rapists and asked, sort of rhetorically, if she'd been raped. And the answer was yes. We had a good conversation after that, but I learned to be more cautious thereafter. Also in general not to joke around with people at work. Unless you know them very well at least. It might be fine at the time, but if someone has a grudge against you they'll grasp at straws and turn the most innocuous remark you made ages ago into an hour issue. I've seen it happen with others. Crappy jobs can still be fun. Last 2 weeks of a temp job, remodel crew for a popular we sell all the shit store. I was on the team that spray painted shelves to be reused in the store. It was mind numbing. At first. Then I found out, by accident, that when the can is empty, if you chuck it in the dumpster hard enough, it was outside on the loading dock so we could pitch the can when we were done. With the nozzle hitting first, the last of the paint will expel out and leave a splat on the side of the dumpster. Made it just fun enough to keep doing it all day. Also, the rest of the crew were a lot of fun and we played cards on our breaks. Even your closest friends can FCK you over. My best friend and I, long distance, were gonna make the jump to move in together. I quit my job and was waiting for her to pick me up. Morning comes along. No answer. Cool, she's prob driving. Few hours later. Still no answer. Really weird. Message a mutual best friend, who is now my absolute BFF. We're closer than ever because of this, and mutual BFF hasn't heard from her either. Night rolls around and it's clear that friend isn't showing up. I get a text at about 6 PM saying she slept through her alarm. I bitched at her. She blocked me and mutual friend. Mutual friend is the best person I've ever had in my life, and as much as I hate ex-best friend now, me and new best friend have worked together to expose so many things and figure out the truth of manipulative ex-best friend. Fuck you, Kira. If someone is more muscular and in better shape than you, it's not a great idea to pick a physical fight with them. Learned this one as a 17-year-old girl. I figured I could easily beat up and intimidate this other girl in my high school. She was 16 and about 3 inches shorter than me. She was also an athlete with a rock-hard six-pack and legs that looked like they were sculpted from stone. All of which I could clearly see on her social media accounts. Yet I still thought fighting her would be a good idea. Armed with my underweight, truly skinny fat body, I confronted her. And promptly got thrown around like a ragdoll and basically crippled with a stomach punch. This was right after I'd eaten lunch. So cue the vomiting in front of everyone. She kicked me a couple more times and I spent most of the rest of the day crying in a toilet stall. It was for the best. Though. I sure as shit never tried to bully or fight anyone again. I'd like to say marrying the wrong guy, but I'm on number 4 and well. Fuck. Looking back now, I realize I never really had a chance. BC I was raised by women that thought taking care of a man was job number 1. Neither my mom nor my grandma did anything to take care of themselves. Meaning pampering themselves or just buying something they really wanted. My mom always bitched that my dad wouldn't let her get a new bathtub. BC hers was so stained. When she died and we were picking out a casket, my first thought was let's bury her in a new bathtub. Yes. Sick sense of humor. The other thing was her always criticizing me and doing way fked up things to me, so I never had the self-esteem to marry a really nice, great guy. I recently started playing Pokemon Go because I'm 5 years behind the rest of the world. Anyway, there's a cluster of Pokestops on my daily dog walking route. And they're also in slightly higher traffic areas. Long and short, I almost got run over by a car backing out of a parking space. While I will take some of the blame, she really did slam it and reverse and step on it. So I quickly learned the lesson of being aware of one's surroundings while playing a silly game. Get everything in writing. Had applied for a job at a small suburban law firm. I was hired after the second interview. Later that day, I emailed the HR manager, boss's wife, about receiving my job offer in writing. She declined, stating that since I agreed verbally, a written agreement was not required. I knew that wasn't true, but didn't push. I wound up only lasting 3 weeks at the job, being let go before I could quit at the beginning of the 3rd week. I kept the emails, so I reported them to the state's employment for lack of a termination letter and lack of written contract. The firm did wind up receiving a warning letter. If I hadn't kept those emails, there's a good chance the firm could have claimed I never worked there since they shut down my access to the direct deposit portal the day after I left. Friends and partners are not always forever, and the people you thought you could trust end up being the people that abandon you in your worst times. Story. I went homeless when I was 18/19 because my family lost their home and I ended up in a housing scam when I moved out on my own. I'm not the type to ever ask for help for anything. I'd rather suffer and do it myself. I was struggling trying to find stable work and a place after being scammed out of $2.5k and was about to hit the streets. A lot of my friends suddenly disappeared, who I didn't want help from. Just someone to talk to, and my boyfriend at the time told me he'd rather see me on the streets in the middle of winter than to help me. I felt so alone during that time and I realized I couldn't trust anyone anymore. From my family who were so financially irresponsible and didn't care, to my ex who made it known he didn't care about me, I left the boyfriend, distant from my family, and I don't keep anyone that close anymore. If something tastes funny, don't rationalize it and keep eating. I ate a Reuben sandwich from a restaurant and thought, this meat tastes weird. Maybe they use a different brand of meat I've never heard before. 2 hours later I was feeling strange. And 30 minutes after that I was in the bathroom for the rest of the day and night. I had to catch a flight the next morning. So that was a nice addition to me feeling like death. I was in bed for several days, but thankfully had flown to my mom's house, so she took care of me. Now, if I have any qualms about something maybe having gone bad, I think, how much would I pay not to throw up? I definitely would have paid the cost of that sandwich. Having a hookup buddy is not emotionally healthy. So in college I met this guy via a hookup app and we became a regular thing, meeting up a couple of times a week. We even laid down ground rules at the beginning of what we were expecting. No official relationship etc. and looking for, and everything was really chill. But as we kept spending more time together I became more drawn to him to the point that I started wanting something more. I learned new things about him and actually had some deep conversations about his family and other issues in both of our lives. I honestly think we may have moved forward with the relationship. But he unexpectedly moved and it left me feeling like I had been abandoned. I know we had set ground rules and both knew not to expect anything, but it still sucked, especially knowing that there was potential. But I learned an invaluable lesson. I don't do emotionless hookups.